I'm Anil Kumar, and in this video we'll understand domain and range of absolute function. So let me sketch one absolute function here. Then we'll take up transformed absolute functions and find their domain range. So this is how absolute function looks like. It is always positive, and we could define it as f of x equals to absolute value of x, which is indeed equals to x for x greater than or equal to 0 and minus of x when x is less than or equals to 0. As you can see, the domain of this function is x belongs to real numbers, and as far as the range is concerned, it is y belongs to real numbers where y is greater than or equal to 0. Right? So that is the domain range of the parent absolute function, right? Right. So key values here are: at 0 it is 0, at minus 1 it is 1, which is also value at plus 1, and at 2 it will be 2, right? So it will be 2 and the same value at minus 2. So likewise you can get many values. So this equation really describes you the function. Now let us see what happens to its domain range when we change the values, right? So if I do horizontal translation, let's look into horizontal translation. In that case, you could have equations as y equals to absolute value of x plus 3, or you could have y equals to absolute value of x minus 4, or something like that. So these transformations can only move the absolute function left or right, right? So x plus 3 will move absolute function to minus 3. On the other hand, x minus 4, if I put 4 here, it becomes 0, right? So kind of like this, right? So that becomes the function is not to the scale anyway. Take this as 4, okay? So like this. But in this case also, what you really see is that the domain and range remains same, right? So if there is only horizontal translation, domain and range is same. So domain, we can say, is all real numbers, correct? So we can say is always minus infinity to plus infinity. As far as the range is concerned, it includes 0, so it includes 0 to infinity, right? Infinity can never be included. But if we do translations which are vertical in nature or reflection, then the domain and range changes. So let's consider those kinds of transformations where domain and range really changes, right? Well, let me tell you, this will not change even for vertical stretch or compression, right? So even if I write, let's say y equals to 2 times, let's say 3x plus 1, right? In this case also, it remains same. So no change in domain and range. Do you see that? Now you should write what this range will be for this kind of a function. So even if you do vertical stretch, compressions, or horizontal stretch and compressions, domain range is not going to change. However, domain and range will change if I have vertical translations or reflection. So I'll take those examples now. If I do minus of x plus 3, in that case, the graph is reflected on the x-axis, right? So let me again draw this one. Minus means, this minus means the reflection, so downwards, and that means it is 0 at minus 3, right? So kind of like this. Do you see that? Now that is your function, and for this function, domain is always x belongs to real numbers for any absolute function of this kind. Range will be y belongs to real numbers, but y is less than equal to 0. Do you see that? So that makes a change in range. We could have another example, let's say h of x, which is equals to, so I'll incorporate 2, in this particular case. Let's say minus of x, and I'll add say plus 5. So in that case, the whole thing shifts 5 units up. So I could have a function which could be shown as kind of like this. You see that? Where this point is plus 5. Now in this case, clearly, domain for all the absolute functions like this will be x belongs to real numbers, but the range y is less than equal to 5. So it is y belongs to real numbers where y is less than equal to 5. Do you see that? So that is how domain range for absolute function changes. Now here are practice questions for you. You need to write domain and range of these functions. So let me write down one. Here is f of x equals to half x plus 2 minus 3. Okay, so this is one function, and function b is g of x equals to minus 3 x minus 1 minus, instead of minus, let me write plus 2. So write domain and range for these functions, right? That should be your test question. And I hope that helps. I'm Anil Kumar. You can always share and subscribe my videos. Feel free to post questions. Now the answer here is domain is all real numbers, right? And range minus means less than equal to 2, right? So let me write down just range here. So for these functions, what we learned is domain is x belongs to real numbers, right? So all these functions. So the range is different. So let me write range here. This is your answer. Since this value is positive, it's going upwards, so y is greater than equal to minus 3, this number, where y belongs to real numbers. And for that function, range will be y is, since this is negative, less than equal to that value 2, right, where y belongs to real numbers. So very easily you can find domain range for such functions. I hope that helps. Thank you and all the best.